Welcome. This is a continuation of the early Middle Ages PowerPoint, part 2, focusing on the barbarian invasions, the Franks, and also feudalism. So, we have political changes in the early Middle Ages. You obviously have the invasions of the Vikings, the Magyars, and the Muslims. The Vikings are from Scandinavia. That would be the modern-day countries of Finland, Sweden, and Norway. They are in purple on this map. They're going to go east and invade Russia and then travel down to the Black Sea via the navigable rivers. Then they're also going to invade England, such as an example of that would be in 792. They invade Lindisfarne monastery. But they're mainly going to stick along the seacoast, along the Atlantic Ocean, go down and invade France, then go around Spain, enter into the Mediterranean Sea, and then attack France from the underbelly, or from the south. The Magyars are in green on the map. They're in central Europe. That would be where Hungary is today, and they're going to invade Germany and France, and also the Italian peninsula. The Muslims, as you already know, are in North Africa, and they're going to invade from North Africa into Spain and also into Italy. However, they will not be successful. It's just another map before, so this is context, this is before Justinian has come around. You have the Byzantine Empire, and you have all the other Frankish and Ostrogothic kingdoms, just for reference. Alright, you have your Frankish rulers, and remember that your Frankish rulers are going to be taking over France, and remember that the Romans called France Gaul. So the Franks will develop into the modern-day country of France, and the first guy you need to know is Clovis. Clovis was the first king of the Franks, and what's important about him is that he converts to Catholicism. He allows himself to be baptized, accepts into the church. So we have an example of the Germanic tribes becoming more civilized by adopting Christianity. So Clovis, the first one to convert to Catholicism. The second important guy is Charles Martel, known as the Hammer. He is the French military commander who leads them at the Battle of Tours in 732, which ends Muslim expansion into Europe, a very important world history turning point. Unfortunately, after that victory, Charles Martel dies, and he gives his power to the son, Pepin the Short. Pepin the Short, I don't know why he was called the Short, but he wasn't actually short. I do know that. And then Pepin the Short and his father, Charles Martel, will establish the Carolingian dynasty, the first dynasty of all the of France, of French history. So here we have a very famous kind of romanticized image of Charles Martel in the center, wielding the sword and attacking the Muslim barbarians at the Battle of Tours. The most important guy that you do need to know, however, is Charlemagne, or Charles the Great, who rules from 742 to 814. He is the greatest of the Franks because he expands the empire, and he defends Pope Leo III from invasion by some of the other barbarian tribes. Once he does that, Pope Leo III is so grateful to him that he crowns Charlemagne the first Holy Roman Emperor. And that happens on Christmas Day, so December 25th, in the year 800 CE in Rome. Charlemagne also develops and leads a resurgence of culture, and we call that the Carolingian Renaissance, a fusion of Germanic, Christian, and Roman ideas, culture, education, kind of a reflowering of classical knowledge, something that you don't really expect when you think about the early Middle Ages, sometimes wrongly called the Dark Ages. He's also going to solidify his empire by building more roads to connect his empire and churches, because he is a loyal and defender of the Christian faith. So here we have a very famous image of kneeling down. You have Charlemagne being crowned by Pope Leo III. And this is just extra information. This is images of Charlemagne's Chapel at his capital in Aachen, Germany. Carries on the Byzantine tradition of the gold backgrounds. It's kind of a common medieval thing, actually. And I also have a picture of his throne that he once sat upon. On the death of Charlemagne, he will divide his empire into three sections according to his sons, and that's called the Treaty of Verdun in 843. Oops, sorry. So you have Louis the German, who will go on later on to establish, be later part of the Holy Roman Empire. We're going to get to that. And Charles the Bald takes over the West Frankish kingdoms, and that's predominantly going to become, what is modern-day France, essentially. Okay. So after Charlemagne dies in 814, you have several other invasions taking place. You have the Angles and the Saxons from continental Europe, kind of where Germany and Denmark are, and they are going to move and invade and settle in England, or Angle land, the land of the Angles, and that turns into England. This image here is a 9th century Saxon helmet that was discovered in England. They had, face plates, protection by the ears, similar to what you might expect, normal helmet to be. And the other invasions, particularly by the Vikings and the Magyars, will intensify during this period, especially the Vikings, because they start in the late 700s, like 793, when they attack Lindisfarne, and they were ruthless, brutal, and you should be able to click on the pop-up to watch a video from Horrible Histories, and I want you to list the possible reasons for Viking invasions. So pause it here, click on the pop-up link for that video, and watch that. Here's just the map revisiting. They're going to attack. The Vikings in particular are going to travel very, very extensively in their boats and the ships along the seashore, the coastline around the Atlantic Ocean in continental Europe. So once again, the Vikings from Scandinavia will attack Britain, possibly North America. This is when you have the legend of Eric the Red and Leif Erikson going to Iceland and Greenland, and they also attack Russia. The Magyars end up settling in modern-day Hungary, and the Muslims, or the Moors from the Mediterranean basin, they're going to attack not only the Byzantine Empire, so this is when under the later Caliphs and the Umayyad dynasty, and later the Abbasid caliphates, they're going to be expanding east into the Byzantine Empire, but also in France and Spain and almost France. They're stopped at the Battle of Tours. And after the death of Charlemagne, when the invasions really start to intensify, Charlemagne's successes and the things that he had done in the Carolingian Renaissance are kind of destroyed. All those gains that he made are lost. So the effects of invasions, there's mainly three. Trade is disrupted. We see kind of a rise in trade under Charlemagne, and then now it's gone. Same thing with towns. Not quite cities for centers of trade, but, towns for local, regional trade centers start to decline. And the idea of feudalism is strengthened. So now last part of their notes, we're going to talk about feudalism. So feudalism is our new political system. Okay? Feudalism is the idea that you exchange loyalty for pieces of land. It's a political system to ensure protection. The other term is manorialism, and that is an economic system that produces everything that you would need through the social pyramid for everyday life. So let's look at the pyramid. At the top, the person who owns all the land in a place would be the king. Okay, and then below that you have the nobles or the lords, and in that relationship between the king and the noble, they're called a vassal, someone who is of lower status as compared to the king. Then below that you have mounted warriors who pledge their loyalty. That would be a knight. And in some cases, knights are also vassals when the knights give pieces of land to the freemen. These are people who can legally leave the estate or leave the manor because they're not in debt, versus a serf. And a serf was a person who could not legally leave the land. They're tied to it. So looking at feudalism, this exchange, and you should be adding this to your pyramid, is the king gives a plot of land that we call a fief to the lord, in this case the second level over a tier, the vassal. Okay? So now the vassal, who is like a duke or a lord, would give a smaller fief to a knight. The knight would also serve as a vassal to the noble, who is on the second tier, but the knight is also the lord of the freeman or the serf, who gives protection and kind of leases that land so that the freemen can farm. In exchange, the freemen give their loyalty to the knights, and the knight and also the vassals and the lords give their loyalty ultimately to the king. In our manorialism, that's our economic example or our economic system, the king gives loyalty to the vassal or the lord gives loyalty to the knight, and then the knight gives loyalty and protection to the freemen and the serfs at the bottom of the pyramid. The freemen and the serfs in response give foods and taxes in exchange for protection to the knight. The knight then gives food and also protection to the lords or the nobility in my second tier from the top. And then again, the vassals and the knights and the lords also give knights in service to the king for the military. Okay, so you want to make sure you have all that. Please make sure that you add to your diagram and your pyramid. So here we have a typical manor of an estate. The big house would be the manor house, and that's where the knight or the lord would live. That could be a knight or a nobility like a duke, or a really big one would be a king. Then you have fields that the freemen and the serfs would live on. In this, every manor would have a small church. Then you also have smaller homes scattered around, like peasants' houses for the freedmen and the serfs. And then, most manors are going to have some type of stream so they can get fresh water and grind the wheat into flour. So it's a kind of a self-sufficient community, very similar to a monastery, but a secular comparison. Here we have another example of the pasture and the field and the church and the serfs' houses, all very tightly knit together. All right, so that's it, explaining feudalism. Please make sure you have watched the additional videos, especially the one about the Vikings, because you do need to know that stuff. All right, have a good one.